Hello everyone, and welcome to Caitlin Culbertson's Corny Cool Conversation of the Day. Our first guest of today is the amazing and spectacular Nelson Mandela. Mandela was a prominent influence in the black community in South Africa during the Apartheid. Even though he was in prison for 27 years, without his work in the movement, the Apartheid could have very well been still going on to this day. Let's give a huge round of applause to the one and only Nelson Mandela. Thank you so much for having me today.
I am so excited to be on Caitlin Culbertson's Corny Cool Conversation of the Day.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure having you here.
No, really, thank you. It's an honor.
No, thank you. Without having you, we would have no show.
No, thank you, because technically you would still have a show just without me.
No.
Just start the show already!
Okay, well, I'm lost, but we're going to start anyway. Tell us a bit about yourself, Nelson.
I was born on July 18th, 1918, in Meviso, which is located on the eastern Cape of South Africa. I was born into a world full of discrimination and racism. Because I was black, I was treated differently than people of other races. We were not given nearly as many rights as the white people, which never made sense to me, considering only 20% of South Africa was white.
Wow, that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing. Tell us a little more about your role specifically in the Apartheid.
Well, let me start off by telling you about the Apartheid itself. The word apartheid means apartness or aparthood. The Apartheid was the official government policy of South Africa that was used from 1948 through 1994. Basically, the Apartheid gave all the government power to the minority. The minority at the time was the white people. This meant that all other races were treated completely different than the whites and were acted upon with extreme racial discrimination.
In what ways were people of other races treated differently than whites? When you say extreme racial discrimination, what do you mean?
What a great question, Caitlin. Some of the ways we are treated different included extreme segregation, from the separation of schools by race to limiting where blacks and other races were allowed to go. We needed passes to get to certain parts of our own country.
That is outrageous! How exactly was a person's race determined?
When someone in South Africa was born, immediately depending on their parents and the way they looked, their race was determined, and so was the amount of rights they will get for the rest of their lives.
Okay, thanks for telling us. Now, when does your part of this conflict come in?
Here's a little bit about my story in the Apartheid. I was the president of the ANC, the African National Congress, and head of the Apartheid movement. I worked very hard to end the Apartheid in South Africa by taking risks that put me in harm's way. In 1964, I was sent to prison for life, and the ANC was banned. We were stuck in a very bad spot. Thanks to all of the hardworking South Africans out there, I was finally released from prison in 1990, and the ANC was unbanned. With the help of many other amazing people, the ANC won the first multiracial election in April 1994, and I became president of South Africa. We had finally ended the Apartheid.
Wow, that is truly amazing. Thank you for taking your time out of your day. We really appreciate it. Goodbye.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back soon. Goodbye, all.
And that was the amazing and spectacular Nelson Mandela. Our next guest is an apartheid expert named Elizabeth Jones. Come on in, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me on your show. I'd love to share my information about the apartheid with all of you.
Thanks for being here. Why don't you start off by telling us basic information about the apartheid?
Sure, no problem. Well, like I heard Nelson say, the apartheid was a government policy in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. It all started when a mostly white government group, the National Party, gained power in South Africa. They immediately began making laws of segregation. It basically deprived all races besides the whites in South Africa of their freedom.
Wow, that's unbelievable! When did segregation begin, and how did they segregate?
In 1950, the laws of segregation were officially put into use. It was awful. All the races had separate schools, separate restaurants, separate places to live in, and even their communication was limited. Blacks were not allowed in big cities, and blacks who lived in villages were often forced out to be replaced by whites.
That's terrible. How many different races were there?
There were many races, from white, black, Asiatic, colored, or other. If you were not considered white, then you were treated horribly with very little rights.
What happened after those laws were set?
Well, the ANC, which was the group Nelson was the leader of, began protesting against the government, and things became violent. In 1960, 70 black protesters were killed. It became so bad that the police were firing guns into live crowds. Throughout the years, many people who protested for their rights were killed and injured. In 1962, at the Sharpeville Massacre, police opened fire at a crowd of 10,000 people, and 67 were killed and 186 were wounded. And to think, these are just a few of the horrible uprisings that happened during the apartheid.
That is so sad to hear. In what ways was South Africa punished for this?
The Olympics are a huge deal in South Africa, so when they were banned from them in 1960s, it caused a huge uproar.
I can imagine. What other major events happened throughout the apartheid?
In 1964, Nelson Mandela was sent to life in prison, and everything in the ANC fell apart. But that only seemed to anger them more. And in 1966, the Prime Minister of South Africa was assassinated. The fighting got worse, and by 1976, 600 people were killed in fights.
Wow, that is such a shame. That is horrifying to hear.
Yeah, and by 1984, there was a township revolt, and it was considered a state of emergency for 5 years.
That is crazy and quite scary. So did the apartheid and all these horrible things ever end?
Yes, the apartheid did end, thanks to all the people who fought and never gave up. In 1990, after enough revolts and fights, the ANC was unbanned, and Nelson was released from prison after 27 years. In 1993, the Constitution was being formed, and it was not yet completely ratified, but still served as the Constitution at the time. In 1994, the ANC beat the National Party in the first non-racial election, and Mandela became president. The apartheid was finally over.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for coming here today and sharing all this info with us.
I was happy to. See you all later.
Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you to all my viewers for watching Caitlin Culbertson's Corny Cool Conversation of the Day. See you tomorrow. Hello, everyone.
Why can't she say the word ever?
Hello, everyone.
Oh, did you just hear my stomach growl? Okay.
That was all her.
Which is located on the eastern Cape. I was
know
going to
where
say
we
coast.
are.
Not yet, you idiot.
Thank you for taking your time out of your day. Does that make sense? Thank you for taking time.
Come on, people.